Hey everyone, welcome to the Outpost. This is going to be timber framing tool tips in 10 minutes, the best that I can give it to you as far as the equipment that you're going to need. I've got other videos that show how to use this equipment, but this is just what you're going to need. In order to cut your logs, you're either going to need a sawmill or you can use an Alaskan sawmill, which you're going to have yourself a good chainsaw. This is a Rancher Husqvarna 455. It's got a 20-inch bar on it. You can put a bigger bar on it because it does have enough horsepower. If you take your time, you'll be able to mill those logs up and use the rest of these tools. I've got plenty of other videos that you can see all this stuff in use, but you're going to need yourself a good chainsaw. The next thing that you're going to need is a good skill saw. This Milwaukee skill saw has been really doing a great job, but you want something again that's got quite a bit of horsepower because you're going to be using it quite often. The next thing that you're going to need is a good router because you're going to have plenty of horsepower because you're actually going horizontal on a vertical bit, so it's going to be kind of tough on it. So you need one that's a relatively good brand so that it'll be able to stand the test. The next thing that you're going to need is a good upflute bit. This is a double. It's got carbide tips, but you probably want to get yourself two because you can wear them out when you're digging mortises out because it does take a while. The next thing you're going to need is a good heavy-duty drill. If you decide not to use the router to dig out your mortises, you can get yourself a Forstner bit that you can drill holes and actually use a chisel in order to get that material out. You're actually going to need a bit like this in order to drill out for your pegs when you put those in the tenons. Once you've got your post or beam cut and it's ready to go, the next thing that you're going to need is a good tape measure. Okay, because you really can't use any of these tools unless you have yourself a good tape measure. Lay out your design on the post or on the beam. You're also going to need a set of good squares like this right here. Now my beams happen to be 7 by 10, some of them, so I had to have a much larger one, but you're going to need yourself a couple of good squares. Also, this is a cheap set that I bought right here at Harbor Freight, but it came in really handy because right down here you've got inches, so I could just put it on my board and I would have my mark right there and I had my 90-degree angle. So that's something else that you might want to take into consideration. Next thing you're going to need, of course, is a good pencil. I would carry 2 of these because a lot of times you break the lead and you can reach and grab another one without having to stop and sharpen that. The other thing that you're going to need is a good chalk box. As you can see me using it in the video right here, you need to be able to measure and find your center line and then be able to strike a line to start your layout. You're going to need yourself some string and some line blocks because you can get your 2 corner posts set and use this to stretch a straight line, and you'll be able to set your posts and other beams according to that. Another thing that you're going to need is a good pair of gloves, something that's comfortable that you can wear because when you're dealing with wood there's going to be a whole lot of splinters and things of that nature. You're also going to need yourself a good pair of glasses because a lot of times I had another set of glasses, but you know, the bigger ones, they're nicer to have because there's sawdust flying around anywhere and it can irritate your eyes. Another thing that you're going to need is a good whisk broom. These are, I think, $1.90 something at Harbor Freight. They're really cheap, but you want to be able to dust off the wood when you get done sawing so that you can see your other marks if you're not finished. Another thing that you're going to need is a good handsaw. Okay, this one is a fine tooth. Doesn't matter where you buy it at. This was made by Cobalt. I do prefer the old vintage saws, but you're going to need something that's fine tooth because unless you've got the money to spend to buy something that's larger than a 7 1/4, you're going to need to finish it off with a handsaw like I did mine. The ones that are larger than this can get really expensive, like I think the next size up is around $500 or $600. I just figured I'd buy a cheap one, use a little elbow grease and finish it off. Another thing that you're going to need is a good set of chisels. I had these made locally right here. They're 12 inches long. The first one, of course, you need a good 1-inch chisel that you're going to be able to dig stuff out with, and just all around purpose chisel. I made all these handles myself, but you're going to need one of those. You're going to need yourself some long timber framing chisels because you really need to get down in somewhere, and this may not be long enough. This is 1.5 inches wide by 12 inches. It allows you to get way back away from your work and be able to do a whole lot with that. This right here is a corner chisel, basically 1 inch by inch. It is for once you get if you're using the router or the drill, you get down in there and you square that corner off. Now you can make tenons that are rounded shape on the end, but I preferred mine to be square, so that's the reason that I use the square chisel. You're also going to need yourself a good mallet. I made this one out of a piece of dogwood. It's really hard wood. You can see I've used this thing for over a year and it's just beginning to show a little bit of wear right there. But you're going to need something in order to use your chisels with. You're going to need yourself a good persuader right here, which you can get you a 5-pound, 7-pound, 10-pound sledgehammer, but you need something sometimes in order to persuade that to go in without having to pull it back down and shaving it off. If it's almost right to fit in there, then just use yourself a hammer and force it on in there and you're set to go. Another thing that you're going to need is a good slick. This right here is basically like a plane, that you use it in this manner right here. And all these tools, of course, are very sharp. You need to keep them that way. Take care of your tools. I use linseed oil on this. This is actually a dogwood handle as well, and that will help preserve all of your handles. And of course, you're going to need yourself a good level. This is a 6-foot level. It's one of the cheap ones by Harbor Freight. I built this whole cabin here with it. It works great. But this is another item that you're going to have. A little 4-foot level won't do it, especially if you're dealing with long beams like I've got. The other thing that you're going to need is a good pair of sawhorses or some type of blocking. What these do is they actually bring the work up closer to you and you don't have to bend over and strain your back when you're working on your project. Split a log, drilled a hole in them, put in some cedar posts for legs, just something really simple. Which you can do. And then what I did was I coated them on the top with some old motor oil that I had that I saved to grease all the equipment that I've got around here and oil it up. But that helps to keep them waterproof because they primarily stay outside. But anyway, you're going to need something to get the work up off the ground where you don't have to strain your back to bend over and work on it. So folks, I've got plenty of videos loaded up on the channel where I actually was building this and using all of these tools. You can see my sawmill in action. I didn't have to have an Alaskan mill, but you can use that in order to take your logs and mill up your timbers. There's really not any reviews to go over other than try to buy some things other than these little hand tools right there. You want to get some quality chisels because if you get cheap metal, you're going to constantly be sharpening those things. But the chainsaw, the router, this Milwaukee saw right here has been doing a great job. This is a Bosch. And this one right here, since I didn't use it that often, this is just basically from Harbor Freight, Chicago Electric. But these tools right here, I use them quite often. You need to buy yourself a good brand, okay, because you're going to use them quite a bit, so you don't want them tearing up on you. Anyway, I hope this helps beginners as far as the tools that you need in order to do basic timber framing. Check out the other videos on the channel on building this timber frame cabin, as well as the forest kitchen up there. We're doing a lot of different building up here, and so you'll be able to see a lot of action with all of these different tools. You all take care, have a great afternoon. We look forward to seeing you back up here at the Outpost in the future.